let me sort of dial back a little bit and tell you two other sort of quick stories. So the first one, well, there's three really. The first one is ocean research tends to be a prerogative of the privileged. And I say that because it's just expensive to get out there and do the work. So, and I said to you before, you know, I've worked in 20 countries and I've made, you know, friends all over the world. And you've met people, and I think I said, you know, the interest is there worldwide in all of these countries. There's people that want to do the work, but they don't have the opportunity, mainly because of the cost. So the first question is, how can we get more people out there sort of collecting this data? And that means it's got to be simple, affordable, sort of replicable. You know what I mean? The second thing is what I call the endangered species paradox. Okay. And it tends to be, you know, camp number one and camp number two. And camp number one is we need to collect all of the information we can so we can mitigate sort of human effects. We need to know why it's happening, how it's happening, so we can solve the problem. But there are another group, quite rightly, and I'm dealing with this now. I don't have to go too deep right now, but where they basically say, don't do anything. They're so close to extinction. Don't do anything that could like push them over the edge. And to be blunt, you know, a lot of data collection is sort of invasive. You know, when we go to the doctor, we don't like it, but at least we know what's going on. You know what I mean? When I come up to an animal and try to biopsy it to get a skin tissue, it doesn't know what's going on. It doesn't go, oh, there's a whale biologist. All right, let me poop for him, you know, or her, you know. So the problem we've got is it's expensive. It's difficult to do. You're on the ocean and you don't want the act of collecting the data to change the data. So then,
but before we start talking about drones, you got to share with people how it used to be done, because you are the father of this. The videos of this look kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's what you could do, right? You were doing what you could do, but tell people how we used to collect data on whales.
Well, I mean, I can bring the story together actually nicely there. Thank you. In short, I was in the Gulf of Mexico after the Deepwater Horizon disaster, and there's a big population of sperm whales that live there, like right near where the disaster happened. And, you know, again, God bless everybody, but there's an awful lot of focus on shoreline and terrestrial and whatever. And what about the animals that live right there? And to be blunt, we were playing, and I'm not trying to belittle it here, but I felt like we were playing the world's most expensive version of whack-a-mole, or if you want to call it whack-a-whale. I have my little crossbow, and we shoot a biopsy arrow at a whale, and we get a little piece, like the size of a pencil eraser. It was a tiny little piece. And by the way, when you watch whales playing and mating, they're beating the living shit out of themselves. So it really isn't a, you know, it's this collecting biopsies has been shown not to affect sort of mating, feeding, all this type of stuff. But the reality is, you know, racing down, trying to get this sample, and then it dove, and then racing over there, and then it dove. And almost like when I started this, you know, we were paying $5,000-$6,000 a day to be out there on a boat, and I wasn't getting the samples. And guess what? That means they're going to shut this program down, and then we don't know what was going on. And I guess I'm lucky, and I would say to anybody else, maybe you're lucky. I'm sort of a generalist, you know, master of nothing, but my hobby was actually building and, dare I say, crashing more than flying radio-controlled airplanes and helicopters and drones. And I'm on the boat, and it's the end of the day, and the whale dove, and I didn't get the sample because it just I was almost there, and then the whale dove, and, you know, I'm pretty upset, and it's the end of the day. And guess what? To add insult to injury, I get covered in this cloud of like whale snot that's like sticky and smelly and whatever. And while I was fuming at as I say, the whole situation, you could almost say I smelt an idea, because I'm like, wait a minute. You know, smelly means productive. Do you know what I mean? It means there's something going on and sticky. And I'm like, wait a minute. And then I thought about it. You know, if you think about a human breathalyzer, they're just looking at your blood alcohol. And I'm like, could we, you know, could whale snot have all this biological info? And guess what? Whales are exhaling at like 60 to 80 miles an hour, which is like when we sneeze. And, Linda, admit it, when we sneeze, there tends to be stuff in our handkerchief, because we're throwing it out. So every exhalation is like this. So it seemed highly likely that epithelial cells and all sorts of the biological sort of, sort of microcosm living in their lungs is then being thrown up into the air. And then, of course, I'm like, well, can I get over there quickly? And this is in 2011, 2012, when drones were just beginning to be made. And I thought originally I'd try to fly an airplane in there. And now, of course, we just bring in this drone, you know what I mean? And the whale exhales onto one of our petri dishes. It just actually, I've got a drone right here. We just fly the drone in and the whale exhales on the petri dish. And FYI, not really that important to all of you folks, but you tend to think that a whale blow goes straight up, but actually the whale's swimming forward. So the blow is like an arc. So we just fly into this arc. So the dishes aren't pointing down, the dishes are pointing forward. And we get all these dishes. And we'll typically have 6 dishes or 3 pairs, 6 dishes that we will put on the drone. And then suddenly you've got these 2 can be for microbiomes, these 2 can be for hormones, these 2 can be for DNA. And then when you're up in the air, of course, you can see behavior. You can do photogrammetry. You can measure the animals, and if I was to go back, like sort of be, let's imagine I'm like a biology sort of creator at the beginning of time. I would say, okay, let's talk about the worst and best way to study whales. The worst way would to be in a boat, because all you're seeing is this sort of log floating on the water. Do you know what I mean? And so what the hell's going on? Getting up in the air is the best way. And now with these drones, a couple of $1,000. And actually, FYI, we've worked with 9 species of whales in 9 or 10 countries. And everywhere we go, we actually have a program and donors are available here, where they will buy us a drone. And then when I go to the Azores, we'll work with the locals, and then we'll train them and give them a drone. And then we'll go down to Mexico, we'll work with the locals, and we'll give them a drone. Now, between you and I, don't tell anyone else here, Linda, but I then get to buy a new drone. It's a win-win-win,
The whales. I got goosebumps when you were just telling that story. I got goosebumps. It is a win-win-win.
And I can tell you, so I was in Gabon, West Africa, and we left them with a drone. And it turned out they ended up by crashing it. But I think they actually found some illegal gold mining, because they were going up this little estuary, and there's all this mud coming in. And like, where's the mud coming from? Next to the rainforest, hacking their way into the rainforest. Who knows if they would find them? And they're like, wait a minute, we can just fly this drone in. There it is. And then they were able to go in and raid the illegal gold mine and so on. And that's what I would say. I'm hoping that one of your listeners, one of the viewers today, will come up with the next drone innovation. You can call me or go do it yourself. But, it's really is thinking outside of the box. That's what I'm excited about. And that's why I like working with kids too, because kids, they don't have the box yet.